Hi there, I am Adam Kirbas. This is another episode of my podcast. We are still in the pandemic. Nothing has changed since yesterday, and nothing is going to change in the foreseeable future, as it looks like. I'm here in Ordu in Turkey. It is a cloudy and rainy August day, an ordinary day, and we will continue talking about screen plays. Something again I have to add before we continue. Of course, we were talking about screenplays, or especially as characters, and why they may have appeal to some people, or why certain characters appeal to people. So we are in a way analyzing these characters, and we were with Sex and the City, and we will continue that. But before we do, of course, we have to be aware of one thing, that Sex and the City, watched by peoples in the 90s, is of course or was differently perceived by people who watch Sex and the Cities in the 2000s, or in the two tens and 20s. Of course, there is a difference. Of course, there is a divergence, and so on, because one thing which we talked about it in great detail as well was actually the rise of internet, the rise of social media, which brought in a huge change. Especially was the most significant change, I would say, in human history, or one of the most significant changes in human history, the rise of the internet and social media. And of course, we have to be aware of one thing, that every generation, in a way, decodes special personalities, special TV personalities differently. Despite for example, Friends is a long-running TV show. It was already present in the 90s, and it is still watched by many people. And of course, of course, over the years, every generation some sort of decoded it differently. And I will refer again to one YouTube channel, which is actually a great inspiration for me. This is the YouTube channel, The Take, and there they some sort of outline that Sex and the City was in the beginning more in favor of the character Samantha, and then times or things shifted towards Miranda. We talked about some of the reasons why, but again we have to emphasize to the fact that every generation decodes some things, or codes and decodes something differently. We will talk today a little bit about Madman, about Don Draper, and what especially younger generation, especially the millennial generation, might think of Madman, why they really admire them, and so on. And this is of course different from other generation. Baby boomers and so on, they have other characters to look up onto. They admire other characters. I did not. I would say I did not think, or this is of course in a way different. Maybe I will make a podcast about that as well, but assumably, in the 60s and 70s, Western movies were were very present. So the baby boomers, in a way, they grew up with Western movies, John Wayne and so on, and then as well as science fiction, especially through the Cold War. And this has, of course, other implications. You seek or you admire other characters and so on. I mean, I talked briefly about James Dean. Well, now I don't know the English title of it. This was a novel of John Steinbeck with James Dean. I mean, I only know it is East of Eden. I think it is East of Eden, where a father has two sons, and one of the sons is some sort of at least in a way is a socialist, or has some socialist demeanor, whereas the other son, impersonated by James Dean, has some sort of a more capitalistic approach and so on. So and this other son, who is more capitalistic, and so it is more admired by his father and more approved by his father, and whereas this son who has a socialist demeanor in that sense goes nuts and so on. So this is how we have to understand, in a way, certain schemes or certain people we admire from their perspective. For example, for millennials, watching a Western is pretty much boring. I mean, if you now this is very subjective, so this is my personal opinion, but I struggle to sit through a Western because it is really some sort of, it has in a way nothing inviting for a millennial yet. Other generations loved it, admired it, and so on. So we always have to see this in a different perspective. So before we continue, and now I will continue with Carrie. I will sum up, I mean, what I talked in the end about yesterday, and this was that Carrie, in my opinion, the Sex and the City main protagonist, it is actually not a whole character. This is what we find in the TV show How I Met Your Mother as well. The character of Ted Mosby, he is actually not a full character, and this is what we find here with Carrie Bradshaw as well, because Carrie Bradshaw pretty much defines herself through that she is some sort of, or in a way mitigates the excesses of her free companions. Like, she's not, we said she's not so, she has ideals, so she has I believe in love. In love, she wants to have this true love, especially with Mr. Big, but in a way she is not as naive as Charlotte, which has this old fashioned, if you want, believe in love. Then of course Carrie has in a way a feminist side as well, so that she want to bolster female identity, but it does not come with bitterness and some sort of like you have it in Miranda, because Miranda is a lawyer. This is the huge difference, whereas Carrie, we said, is a columnist. She writes about love, she writes about sex, and it is always assumed in a way that women know more about, not only about sex and love, but about relationships, so that women are experts. And so in a way some sort of she as a writer, as a columnist, can be independent. She's some sort of pursues a female profession. So she talks about love. This is what one assumes is a female domain compared to Miranda, who is some sort a lawyer who works in a male domain, has to adopt to male behavior, and so Carrie in that sense is different. Of course, she has an ideal. Of course, she has an and and Carrie, in a way, differentiates herself from Samantha as well. Of course, she has a sex drive. Of course, she has some sort of a yearning for this male desire. In some, I think, pretty much in the beginning of the series, she says it in a way that she wants to crave sex like a man, and so, but it is not excessive like Samantha. It is rather filled with emotions, rather that with at least it appears that way, that it is more deeper, more with an ideal guided, and this ideal is the love she has for Mr. Big, or in general the love she has, or this idea of love she preserves in herself, and this is partially the difference to Samantha. And in that sense, you have to be aware that Carrie is some sort of a mixture of all three other women, and she is always some sort of if you want the average woman, this is how this is always in a way perceived. The average woman, or maybe not the average woman, but so this girl who is smart, who is beautiful, who has some sort of values. This is all again some sort of that you try to appease all these worlds, so all these demands of the world, which some sort of puts forward you. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, especially with the character of Samantha, that if you as a woman, if you have some sort of male craving, have a lot of sexual partners, people consider you as a whore and so on, and they will chide you and deride you as a whore. And with Carrie, we have some sort of in a way this attempt. She's some sort of a woman who has if you want a healthy sexual drive, and a healthy sexual drive means that she's capable to a meaningful relationship, that she wants to settle down. She wants to marry Mr. Big and so on. But as well as in the same instant, we have some sort of in Carrie the drive to be as a woman, to be independent. This is some sort of you have with her as a writer. So she pretty much does her own time. She writes about her own experiences, as well as about the in general, about the experiences of others, and so on, about relationship, love, and this makes her some in a way independent. So she's an independent writer, freelancer, I assume. However, and then you see these combinations. So if you want, Carrie is some sort of admired by many women, especially women who some sort of know that there's a rift within the society. We talked about it the last time. I mean, in order to be successful as a woman, you have to adopt to some certain male behavior with in sacrificing your femininity, but when you do not go along with it, when you want to preserve your femininity, then this always comes with a loss of career